Greetings, all! Today, we'll be examining the relatively uncommon water-type Pokemon Wiglett and its uncommon evolution Wugtrio, the two collectively known as the Garden Eel Pokémon. Though their appearances to some might be deemed even sillier than the land-bound counterparts, the members of the Wiglett family are unique beasts that can still make a splash if you can ever manage to actually get close to them.
Wiglett have very simplistic bodies at first glance, as most of their form is actually hidden beneath the sandy soil they call home. All that is exposed is a long, white, tubular body, whose only adornments are the two black eyes and the rounded pink proboscis of sorts that caps their lengthy body. The evolved form, Wugtrio, have almost the exact same physical form, and their lower parts are also never seen, always hiding in sandy soil and rocks near the surface. The only major visual differences between them and the pre-evolved form, aside from a slight change in preferred habitat, is that they have a white proboscis, reddish-pink bodies, and always live together in groups of 3.
The members of the Wiglett family have a physical form that resembles that of the Diglett family greatly, but despite how similar they might otherwise look, the two families are completely unrelated in every way, occupying different niches, elemental type assignments, moves, and even abilities, and have developed in completely different environments and circumstances.
This is a consequence of convergent evolution, where two different creatures of completely separate origins, attributes, and biology end up taking on the same general appearance for completely disparate reasons. In the case of these creatures, they are actually garden eels and not moles of any sort, and have taken on a thin, gooey, cylindrical form in order to more effectively burrow into the sands on beaches, where they make their burrows in a similar process as their land-bound lookalikes. While they do share the same general base stats, that seems to also be a consequence of convergent evolution for them, and in turn gives them a similar degree of survivability in all stages of life. The one thing that really helps to separate them, however, are their water-type attributes, which run completely counter to the Diglett family, and thus give them a bit of an advantage over their land-bound doppelgangers, even if the moves they might learn early on might not reflect their best attributes, and thus can make them a bit of a pain to work with.
This difference is reflected as well in their abilities, as the slimy forms can grant them access to Gooey as a base ability, while the skittish natures can also give them access to Rattled as a base ability. Those that can go further than this can actually make good use of their sandy habitats by using the slimy bodies to make sand particles adhere to them, and therefore can have Sand Veil as a hidden ability.
In looking at their stats in the case of Wugtrio, it can be observed that these creatures lack much in the way of effective combat potential on their own, with limited capacity to take damage in any real fashion. But at the very least they can hit with notable force in close quarters and are incredibly fast moving, their base attack and speed stats being above average for a fully evolved water-type Pokemon, so they can have their uses even if they don't usually last that long in battle. Wiglett normally keep their heads and bodies buried beneath the ground in their burrows and only ever extend their forms to hunt, but they are rather skittish about it because of their fairly frail, weak forms. On the one hand, these beasts have an incredible sense of smell and can smell potential prey from over 60 feet or 20 meters away, feeding on small crustaceans that come up to the shores they dwell on to feed and reproduce. As noted, these beasts tend to be extremely cautious and timid, and rarely keep their head up out of the sand if anything larger than them gets near them, which can make encountering them a bit of a hassle in some cases, as they will often hide out the moment something or someone gets too close to them, and thus must be approached slowly in order to catch them off guard. This behavior is mainly due to the voracious tendencies of Veluza in their native habitats, and given how voracious and vicious those fish are known to be, this is of little surprise to most. While this limits the kind of offensive threat they can pose at a young age, these creatures thankfully mature fairly quickly, and thus can prove to be of some good use when they're made the most of, even if they mainly learn nothing but special attacks at first.
Wugtrio still resemble the land counterpart in Dugtrio a great deal, and much like the land-bound lookalikes, these creatures are notably more dangerous and especially aggressive compared to the pre-evolved form.
While they will still hide themselves in the presence of larger creatures to keep their soft bodies safe, these creatures are much more ruthless predators and will make good use of the long bodies in order to wrap around and suffocate their prey, drawing them into the den and then finishing them off inside where they are unlikely to be able to escape with 3 predators bearing down on them at the same time. Contrary to what might be expected though, these beasts are not actually linked together beneath the sands, instead existing in groups of 3 as a natural defense mechanism against larger threats. This helps them to fight off Pokemon like Veluza, who otherwise would make a meal out of them, and gives them some unique offensive utility as they are able to make use of the signature triple dive attack to repeatedly strike others for a considerable degree of physical damage, making the most of their otherwise odd anatomical forms in the process. Despite the potential harm they can cause others, these creatures are usually rather benign in the presence of many larger Pokemon, and can actually be easy to work with if they can be trained thoroughly, though their timidness towards humans in the wild can still make this a dangerous prospect, especially if they are engaged and are forced to fight for their lives to survive.
These little critters are both utterly silly looking and quite resourceful, and you best make sure to not let your guard down around them if you don't want to get hit. Wiglett might be incredibly weak and not really able to take much of a hit, but the deceptive speed gives them a huge advantage against most of the young Pokémon. As such, they can usually get the drop on others with little trouble to get a crucial first strike in, though they usually have to hide in the ground to avoid retaliation of any kind. Wugtrio appear to be more of the same, and in practice, well, they sort of are, honestly, but that doesn't make them any easier to deal with right away because the tendency to live in groups of 3. Teamwork can make for good results if played correctly, and these noodly rascals can get the drop on anyone that isn't paying attention to their feet, so keeping a close watch on them is best for those that don't like unexpected surprises in the heat of battle.
Though they might confuse those that aren't aware of what the elemental attributes actually are, the members of the Wiglett family are still fun creatures to play around with if you can make it clear to them that you're not a threat. Their elusive nature and quick movement speeds might make catching them a bit of a pain, but they can pull the same stunt on opponents to great effect when needed.
Just do yourself a favor and make sure that you don't get too close if you don't have gloves for good grip, as the slimy frames will likely slip out of your grasp and reach if you can't get a firm hold on them before they retreat into the ground, never to be seen again.
Thank you all for watching this video. It always brings me great joy to see others enjoying the work I do to try and make the world of Pokemon and the fascinating creatures that lay inside of it feel as real as they possibly can. If you really enjoy my work, please feel free to leave a comment and subscribe, as I always do my best to respond to any and all comments that are left on my videos. In addition, if you wish to learn more about my work and help support it, you can find links to my Patreon page, as well as email and other contact information to my work on DeviantArt in the video description down below. Furthermore, you can find a link to my Discord server there as well if you'd like to get a first glimpse at what videos are coming up next and converse with other fans of the world of Pokemon. Thank you for taking the time to watch this, and have a wonderful rest of your day.